Good morning and welcome to News and Views. You're still tuned in to Salam Media, your home of humanitarian journalism, with myself, Salalo Mcbride. And today we'll be heading over to Namibia again as they're heading out to the polls. The nation finds itself at literally a crossroads, facing what could be its most critical election since gaining independence. This is back in 1990. And for the first time in its history, a runoff election appears to be on the horizon. SWAPO, the Liberation Party that has dominated Namibian politics for over 30 years, faces mounting challenges from growing discontent among urban youth to corruption scandals. Like the infamous fish rot scandal. Opposition forces, particularly the IP, the Independent Patriots for Change, led by a former SWAPO member, Panduleni Itula, are presenting a united and formidable challenge. But what does this election mean for Namibia's democracy, and could it signal a broader trend of liberation movements losing their strongholds in Southern Africa? And joining us this morning to provide in-depth analysis is none other than Nyasha Mcbride Mpani, project lead for the Data for Governance Alliance at the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation. They're based out in Cape Town. Nyasha, welcome to News and Views once again. Always a pleasure having you on, and really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers and listeners.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, every time I read or do some research on Namibian elections, there seems to be a common theme, and that being the country being at a crossroads. These elections have been described as a pivotal moment in Namibian history. Can you paint a picture for us on what's at stake, for Namibians, and what's at play generally for Namibian democracy, and what these elections could mean for all of that?
Thank you very much for that question. I think what is at play at the moment is the country has been under the rule or the leadership of SWAPO for the last 34 years. And over the years, I think people were not knowing what was currently happening in Namibia. But with the rise in unemployment, bad economic management, poor social services, and issues to do with corruption, especially the fish road, which you have indicated earlier, he has put issues to do with Namibia as democracy and leadership at the center stage. Namibians, they have been complaining about these issues, and they are now core to what is at stake during this election. Citizens going into this election with the desire to change or to put leadership that can be able to address some of these most important problems, which they've indicated in the surveys that have been conducted by Afrobarometer over the last year, saying we want a leadership that is able to address unemployment, to address the economy, and to also address social services. And also data that is out there from Afrobarometer indicate that majority of citizens, 76% of them, they actually highlight that the country is going into the wrong direction economically. So you can understand what is at stake at the moment is that it's a country whereby citizens, they now want to change the trajectory in terms of how the country is being run.
The last time you and I spoke, I think we focused quite extensively on the Namibian electoral process and how there seems to be a lot of flaws and dissatisfaction from the masses on how the electoral process has been panned out in the country in the previous elections. From what you're gathering thus far, what's the latest? Is it all systems go? Is everything working as it's supposed to? What can you tell us on that front?
So I was just looking at what was happening this morning. I saw the vice president of SWAPO, who is also the candidate, and she went to vote, and also the president of the opposition political party, IPC, Dr. Itula, is also casted his vote. Looking at the videos in terms of how the voting process went on, I think the Electoral Commission is doing a great job. I did see yesterday some incidences whereby details on the voting cards are not matching. The one or two incidences. Yes, the electoral, those are some of the incidents that can be expected in an election. Remember, the electoral commission is not is run by human beings who are also not perfect. So some of these hiccups can be picked up, but I don't think they can be able to paint a black picture on the electoral commission at the moment, as if as things are going on smoothly. I've also seen long queues, and we need to see as the day progresses how the electoral commission is going to be able to manage those long queues. People, are they not going to feel frustrated in terms of the pace? So it's too early to be able to project whether or not the electoral commission is managing those long queues in a fast pace, or they're actually struggling.
I want to stick on that theme of the electoral process. One thing that I saw trending on social media is the fact that there seems to be a lot of criticism of the fact that the SADC electoral observer mission is being headed by Zimbabwean officials, and there seems to be this big mistrust over Zimbabwe and them chairing the SADC observer mission. People are saying, well, they can't run their own elections free and fair. How do you expect them to oversee a free and fair election in another country? What do you make of this? Zimbabwe chairing the SADC observer mission. Are you confident that they'll do the right thing? They'll observe as they're supposed to, or it's going to be that normal trend of Southern African revolutionary movements sticking together as has always been the theme?
I think with citizens are correct to be saying that, because at the end of the day, citizens' perspectives are what is important when you get into an election. This is why we always say that it's important for people or for institutions to build trust. Citizens need to trust these institutions first before such electoral processes begin. So we all know what's happening in Zimbabwe, that over the years since 2000, there's been contested elections, and the person who actually is heading over the SADC, there are issues within the Zimbabwean space where they actually accuse him of not being impartial. But however, when you look at them, at how SADC electoral observer missions are composed, it's not only her who's part of the mission. There are also technical staff who make up the composition of the SADC electoral observer mission, and these people, they also come from different countries. So it's not all that because she's just the head, she's going to be reading what the technical team is going to come up with and give it to her. So I don't think there's any need to think through that because she's the head, maybe things are not going to be partial. I think when we are blaming whatever report that they're going to come with, whether or not it's objective or not, I think we don't need to entirely pin it on her, but we need to pin it on the entire SADC observer mission, because this report is going to encompass the whole SADC mission, observer mission, including the technical people who will be crafting the report that the head would then read out after the elections.
And there's been a lot of predictions of there being a potential runoff. What would such a scenario mean for Namibia's electoral process and also just the political stability of the country as a whole?
A runoff would be actually not an advantage for the ruling party, because in my assumption is that once we have a runoff, the opposition parties are going to come inside with the opposition party that would have gone into a runoff with the ruling party. So that is a disadvantage on SWAPO's side. But there is a likelihood that we might go into a runoff, and I think that will be a bloodbath for SWAPO. And I don't think even SWAPO wants a runoff, because they know what it means. So we have to see what is going to happen after the voting has ended and the results are in, and whether or not we are going into a runoff. But I can predict that if a runoff is to happen, it's a bloodbath for SWAPO.
All right. I think we're going to leave on that note. Nyasha, thank you so much for giving us your time. And we'll be keeping a close eye, and I'm sure we'll be making contact with you as results start trickling in. But we're going to leave it here for now. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
That was Nyasha Mcbride Mpani, Project Lead Data for Governance for Data for Governance Alliance. This is from the Institute for Justice and Reconciliation. They're based out in Cape Town. So it's going to be an interesting day, and we'll be following those, latest updates coming out of Namibia and the numbers. We'll be giving you the latest on how their elections are going. And I think really, really important, to follow the elections in Namibia because they are quite close to South Africa. We don't want to see a situation of what's currently happening in Mozambique, for instance, where, after the elections, there was a lot of instability in the country. And we hope that we don't see, the same images coming out of Namibia. But again, this is quite interesting, man. The fact that Namibia doesn't seem like, the only ones that are, grappling and struggling with the liberation parties, eh? All across Southern Africa, there seems to be a decline in support, for those parties that are, seen as liberation, transformative, freedom-giving political parties. Botswana, same scenario. Mozambique, same scenario. Here in South Africa, we saw how the ANC lost a majority for the first time since our democracy, 30 years ago. And I think, it's going to be interesting how Namibians also, are going to be, grappling with their party, SWAPO, which has been in power since 1990 when they gained independence. So, yeah. Really, really interesting times, particularly in the southern tip of Africa, the region SADC. And it'll be interesting to see when it's all said and done and numbers start trickling in, if indeed Namibians are calling for change, and that wind of change, that wave of change that seems to be sweeping across the region has also touched our neighbors out in the southwest. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues. We'll be focusing on this looming ceasefire between Hezbollah and the Israeli occupying forces. Will be getting insights from international relations analyst Gideon Chitanga on that front. That happening after the short break.
We are here in the middle of a Zahra neighborhood. The whole neighborhood is already destroyed. More than 17 towers are down. Here, as you can see, the firefighters trying their best to help. The people are still under the rubble. A lot of the people.
Join Hamza on his exclusive South African tour as he shares his personal experiences, never before seen footage, and powerful insights on the ongoing genocide in Gaza. This is more than just a talk. It's an invitation to witness Gaza through the lens of Hamza Sha'alan. Don't miss this opportunity to meet the photojournalist who brought Gaza's pain and perseverance to the world in its darkest moments. Follow Salam Media on social media pages for more on this tour and be part of the conversation.